Hello, my name is Veronika Dudková, and in this video we will take a closer look at the topic of witch trials in the Czech lands. I'm making this video together with my colleagues Krištof Háša and Lada Mrňáková. Let's start this topic with some historical context. Witch trials were not unique in the Czech lands. They were part of a wider European phenomenon that reached its peak between the 16th and 17th centuries. In this period, a combination of fear, religious tension, and social problems created a fertile ground for accusations of witchcraft. In the Czech lands, the situation was influenced by several factors. Society was unstable, poor, and often devastated by the previous conflicts. People needed explanations for disasters such as a bad harvest, fires, or sudden deaths. Witchcraft became an easy answer. Who was accused and why? Most people accused of witchcraft were women, although men were not completely exempt. Typically, suspects were individuals who somehow stood out. For example, widows, healers, or simply people who were not well liked by their community. Accusations often began with something minor: a conflict with a neighbor, a sick cow, or even a failed loaf of bread. If someone had enemies or lived in the edge of society, it was easy for rumors to grow into something more dangerous. Superstitions also played a huge role. Many people believed that witches could control the weather, cause illness, or make pacts with the devil. When something went wrong and no logical explanation could be found, people turned to the idea of magic. Once someone was accused, the process was extremely difficult to escape. Courts often relied on torture to obtain confessions. The logic was simple and cruel. If the accused confessed, it proved guilt. If not, a stronger torture was applied. The trials also relied heavily on testimonies from neighbors or local villagers, which were often based on rumors, personal conflicts, or fear. Once a confession was obtained, the accused usually named other people who were supposedly witches as well. By the early 18th century, attitudes toward witchcraft changed. Enlightenment ideas began to spread, emphasizing reason, science, and skepticism. Authorities realized that many trials were based on superstitions rather than evidence. The witch trials in the Czech lands were a tragic part of history. They remind us of how powerful fear, superstitions, and ignorance can be, especially in the times of crisis. many innocent people lost their lives because others were unable to understand natural events or accept differences within their communities.
Okay, hi, my name is Christopher, but first of all, thank you, Veronica, for the introduction. Today I will talk about which trials in Velké Losiny and Šumperk. These trials happened between 1678 and 1696. They were very cruel. Jindřich František Boblik led the trials. He accused and burned many innocent people. Around 100 people died. The trial started with Marina Schuchová. She tried to help a sick cow with a commune wafer. Someone told the authorities she was accused of witchcraft. Other women were arrested too. During torture, they had to name other people. The accusation grew. In 1678, the women were tortured. Someone died in person, others were burned alive. More women were arrested and forced to name others. The tribunal also went to Šumperk. It was the next place where the witch hunts continued. Rich citizens were accused because the investigators believed that the witches could be found everywhere. One of the accused women was Maria Sattlerová, a respected woman in the town. She spent 2 years in prison, where the conditions were very hard. She was forced to accuse her husband and daughter, even though she loved them. In December 1682, she was executed, and her death shocked many people. The last victim was Jindřich Peške in 1696, after many years of fear. By the end of the trials, 52 people from Šumperk and Frančstad were killed. Many families were destroyed. In Velké Losiny, 53 people were burned, which shows how large the panic became. 10 of them were men, but most victims were women, because they were too easy to accuse. The trials were cruel and unfair, and people had no chance to defend themselves. A local priest, Tomáš František Koenig, protested and tried to stop the injustice. He wrote a complaint to the bishop, where he described the suffering of the prisoners. But the authorities ignored him and continued with the trials. Later, the panství was taken over by the Žerotín brothers, who finally decided to act. They asked the Emperor Leopold I to stop the trials because they saw the damage it caused. The Emperor agreed, and the witch hunts finally ended.
Hello, thank you Verča and Krzysztof for hanging over the floor. My name is Lada Mrňáková. As a follow-up, I would now like to introduce you to the witch trials in Silesia and take you specifically to the Duchy of Nysa. This territory underwent violent changes in the 17th century. During the 30 Years' War, many chaotic refugees from other areas fled here. These refugees brought more than just their belongings. They brought fear. Many had seen witch trials before and knew that accusing someone was an easy way to steal their property. However, it wasn't just about greed. Belief in magic was deeply rooted in people's minds. Often only a slight impulse was enough for fear to turn into a ruthless hunt for these so-called creatures. The immediate spark for the Silesian trials came on June 27th, 1622, in the town of Jeseník. A dying husband accused his own wife, Barbara Šmídová. He claimed she gave him a poisoned cake, caused him inflammation, and started two fires. Barbara was arrested and tortured immediately. Under this pain, she confessed it and named 5 accomplices, including the wife of a city councillor. This began the classic chain reaction: accusations, torture, forced confessions, and more accusations. Barbara was burned at the stake just days later. In this first phase alone, 35 people were investigated, and the wave of inquisitions spread quickly from Jeseník to the Zlaté Hory region. The second, even darker wave began in 1636. It was driven by the bishop's prosecutor, Dr. Martin Lorenz. The trials grew to such a massive scale that in 1639 the government actually approved the construction of special urns, incinerators, to accused victims faster. They call it justice for devil worshippers. We will probably never know the exact number of victims, but indirect evidence suggests that between 1639 and 1651, as many as 242 people may have died. In 1651, a third wave began. This period is significant because of the arrival of Jindřich František Bobling, later known as the infamous Inquisitor of Šumperk. Here he was just starting as an associate judge. We have pursued judgment from this time against a woman named Ursula Schnurzelova. The document claims she sinned against God, gave herself to a demon named Roland, carved meat from cattle, and practiced magic for 20 years. Despite attempts by the bishops of Wrocław to stop the brutality, his warnings were ignored. In the summer of 1651, dozens of people were killed in mass executions. After a 30-year break, the last known trial occurred in the 1680s. A court protocol from this time tells the story of a girl named Rosina from Domashov, who confessed to riding a pitchfork to devilish meetings. Cruelly, not even story ended in execution. A remarkable case in Opava involved a 104-year-old woman named Justina. She resolutely rejected the executions and was eventually declared innocent by the Jesuits. So what are the final numbers? The exact count is unknown, but it is reported that at least 350 people lost their lives in these Salesian trials. If we consider the higher estimates, the number could be well over 500. That concludes our presentation on the history of the witch trials. Thank you for joining us and paying attention to this very dark chapter of our history.